Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Geeking Out podcast. And we're going to try for a second time Tabitha from the Heroes Initiative.
Hello.
Gonna address an elephant, just the elephant in the room. We had originally recorded one of these a few weeks ago. Really good interview, but unfortunately, some technological miscues on my part have made that a form of lost media. But we're gonna try this again, and hopefully,
Yeah.
you guys will enjoy it.
And we're gonna rock it. So, it's all good. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna
In,
find that magic. We're gonna find that magic again.
Indeed. So the first thing I wanted to ask you is, how did you become? What got you started in enjoying comic books, and essentially what led you to meeting the greatest comic artist of all time, Mr. George Perez?
All right. Well, we had moved down here to Florida in 2000. In fact, on January 1st, 2000. So a bunch of my family, who's all from the Midwest, were all freaking out about, oh, Y2K, Y2K, what happens? It's like, nothing's going to happen, guys. We'll be fine. So we show up, everything's fine. I was working at Walt Disney World on my college program, and I went from my college program into entertainment, which is where I met my friend Carol. And Carol and I got along right away, and we'd been fast friends, and we were friends for several months. And then one day, the whole thing about what does your husband do came up. And I was telling her what my husband does, which he's basically at this point he's the head librarian for the Disney, um, like basically their engineering library. He's like the head librarian of that. And she's like, oh well, my husband's an artist, and I'm thinking, okay, somebody about his age, about her age, he's probably painting dolphins and stuff, whatever. So I was like, I'd love to see something that he's done. So the next day, she brings in a copy of Crisis on Infinite Earths that has been signed and sketched to me. It has a Superman sketch in it. And I'm like, oh, an artist. I see. So that was the very first comic book I ever owned. Was Crisis on Infinite Earths. That was given to me by George. And then we decided a couple months later that we wanted to meet all of us together. Like, I wanted Carol and George to meet my husband AJ, and of course Carol wanted AJ and me to get to meet George. So we did a day at the park. George and I hit it off immediately. Like, it was from just first sight. We knew we were friends. This is going to be awesome. And that's pretty much how it's been. He's adopted me as his spiritual daughter a few years ago, and he takes good care of me, and I take good care of him, and it's that's pretty much our relationship. So
So you didn't before you met George or his wife or anything, did you have any sort of familiarity with superheroes or comic characters at all through any other type of media?
I mean, unfortunately, as embarrassing as it is to say, I did grow up in the Midwest. There's not a whole lot out there. Definitely never had a chance to buy comics because they just didn't sell them. So
Right.
it's like I'd seen, like the Tim Burton Batman,
Okay.
and of course the Richard Donner Superman. So it's like the major films that had come out, but I didn't know anything about anything else really, just because it wasn't ever something that I could do. Like, there wasn't a comic shop around the world that around the corner that I could go to. The libraries didn't carry anything. So it's like I read. I was a voracious reader. I won like so many awards for my reading and when I was in elementary school, but unfortunately comics was not a medium that I was able to do until I came down here to Florida and met George and really started getting into it, because I realized the beauty and the strength and the fantastic storytelling that goes into these books. And I'm like, I want to read more.
So
So that's where I am.
this is the Geeking Out podcast, and part of the whole
Yep.
part about that is geeking out. So your first comic was Crisis on Infinite Earths. Not really trying to put you
Yes.
on the spot or anything, but like, what are some of your favorite comic books? You know, maybe whether George worked on them or not, or
Okay.
what are some of your favorite comic books, and what are some of your favorite characters
All
that
right.
are in comic books?
Most definitely. So, of course, anybody is when they're trying to really get into comics, they're going to read Watchmen because that's to me that's you have to read it because it really introduces you to the way of storytelling in a comic book, and it tells you, you get to learn how the different characters can be moved and seem to be one thing, and then no, ha ha ha, no, at the end I'm the bad guy. um, David Mack is absolutely one of my favorite artists. I love his work. I love his style. Both John Romita Sr. and John Romita Jr. And in fact, I can tell you a story a little bit later on when we are talking about, the what I do. But I do have a story about John Romita Sr. That actually we didn't get to tell you the first time. So I'm glad
Oh
I
wow,
thought about it that I can tell you this time because it'll be something new and something amazing. But no, I have a really great story about him. Leonard Kirk, I love the cleanliness of his lines. Mike Perkins is fantastic. And I mean, I could go on and on and on. And we haven't really gotten into me working with Hero Initiative, which we will, but that has given me the chance to meet so many of these people that I look up to and that I enjoy reading their stories, that I enjoy seeing their art, and I get that chance. And it's so, like, I'm just so lucky to go from never getting to read a comic book to being smack dab in the middle of it
right.
and knowing everybody. And, I have a friend of mine, Dan DiDio, walks by and, grabs me like big bear hug from the back. And my friend, like his face just was like, whoa. Because, Dan DiDio is a good friend of mine and he's a huge fan of Dan, is, the I guess, ex editor in chief at this point of DC. So, and he had never met Dan before. So, like, the fact that Dan, like, comes over, singles me out, and is hugging me, kind of like blew his mind a little bit. And that was kind of fun. So, like, I get to have fun doing little things like that. So,
That is awesome. Let's backtrack a little bit. You know, you mentioned you worked at Disney. With the best that you can uh, disclose, take me
mhm.
through your journey to working at Disney, and what the process of applying to work at Disney is like.
Well, that started for me in 1984. There was a commercial on the television for Epcot, and it was Epcot Center back in the day, and it was this really just kind of cacophony of everything because they really just didn't have, Disney commercials now they kind of tell a story. But this was just, oh, here's China, here's Norway, here's this, here's that, here's a character, here's the drummer. Like it just was, this is what we are. And it had a two-decker red bus with Goofy dancing in front of it. And then the commercial ended with Mickey Mouse standing on top of Spaceship Earth and he's waving. And I turned to my grandmother at 8 years old and I said, I'm going to do that someday. I'm going to work in entertainment at Walt Disney World. And I did. I got married to my husband, who is absolutely just, well, he's been on board 100% from day one. We moved down here. We both had crummy jobs for a while, to get my foot in the door. I was at the popcorn wagon in Fantasyland for 6 months before I auditioned. I auditioned with about 750 other people, and they originally told me to take a hike. It wasn't until 2 days later they called back and said, you know what, we were going over those tapes and we'd really like to offer you a job. There's something, we saw something and we really want to, I think we can build on that. I think we can make this work. So I called my new work location and said, hey, I actually, entertainment wants me back. So I'm going to be going over there. And then that was that. And I was in entertainment for years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You got to live out a dream such as that, here.
Yeah, I did it. I honestly, I did it as long as my body could let me. It is a very physical job, so that I had to kind of scale it back, and then eventually I did have to leave just because I couldn't do it anymore. But oh my gosh, this was such a great time.
So you've gone to Disney, you've become friends with George and his wife.
Hmm.
We meet for the first time at a
Yes,
convention. So you
yes.
were, and you'd been doing conventions for quite a while
Oh,
with
many,
with
many
with George
years.
up to this, way before 2016 when we met.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Take me
I want to say
through.
our first convention together was 2003.
Okay, I said, take me through your first experience at a convention with George, and subsequently some fun stories from your many convention travels that are safe to disclose on a
Yeah, so
forum
I
such as
gotta
this.
Yeah, there's some I can't get into, but yeah, no, my very first convention was, I wasn't helping George at all. It was just his treat. I wanted to see what he did, because I'd never seen a comic book artist in action. I'd never really understood, like, he tried to tell me, but I'm like, I want to see it in person. So he got us some VIP tickets to MegaCon, which is our local show here in Orlando, and even got us like VIP tickets to see the celebrities that were there because there were a couple that we were big fans of. But we ended up staying a lot of the second day just kind of hanging out because I saw how busy he was. So the next year, he asked me, he's like, well, do you want to come and help out and just be with me? I'm like, well, yeah, that'd be great. So that was what I did the next year. And then the year after that was when Jim McLaughlin, who is the head of the Hero Initiative, and Joe Quesada from Marvel Comics, and it was me, and I honestly don't remember. There were two other people there, but there were three possibilities, so I don't want to tell you the wrong person, but it was two of the three gentlemen who also ended up on the Regional Advisory Board, which was born that night. And basically, what the Regional Advisory Board is, that's what I'm on, is that I have I'm in charge of the Southeast, so like Florida, Georgia, Carolina, stuff like that. Whenever they try to do anything, I'm the one that they get a hold of. I'm the one that like gets everything set up for them, gets their volunteers there, gets them trained so they know what they need to do. Um, and go from there and get with the artists and the writers, to see if they'll have their little bin at the table and collect money for us. And a lot of people are really cool about that, which is very nice because I mean, you can ask and they can say yes or no. The majority will say yes. So we have kind of gone, when I first started, they would come to our table for a certain amount of time, but we've kind of moved away from that and have it be there at their table the whole time, but they have the little bin and they have information that they can give out, and that just makes it easier for them. Because then they don't have to like try to pay attention to time. They can focus on what they need to get done, but they're still doing good for us. So it's kind of it's grown organically into that. So makes it easier. And I honestly, what was the second part of the question? I
Well,
started getting
well,
off
well, we
on that. I'm
well we
sorry.
can circle back. This was, I asked about some fun convention stories that you feel comfortable sharing, but since we're on
Oh,
the
okay.
subject, we'll circle back to convention stories. Tell us about Hero Initiative and what it is, what it represents,
Okay.
everything about it. So if people would want to donate, they know what
Okay.
they're donating to.
You got it. Well, Hero Initiative is the one and only federally chartered charity in the United States that is built to give care and assistance to comic book creators in need. Now, that can be golden and silver age people that need help, filling their fuel tanks, to stay warm in the winter, if they need help buying their groceries so they have enough food. And then we can get into even current people today who, we've helped younger artists who've had cancer. We've helped pay for their medical bills, and we've also given them an avenue back into paying work. So they're not necessarily accepting charity from us. They still have that dignity of, I'm earning money for myself, because we're the ones that will help set them up and get that new job. We're kind of the in between. Like, hey, you need this done. We know a guy, and then they can do the job and they can earn it and they can have that on their own. So we also keep in mind their dignity and making sure that they understand that, even no matter which way they go, we are here to help them. And that's the point. I mean, honestly, some of the saddest things that we've had to do is cover for funerals. We have had to pay to bury a few of our older silver and golden age creators, just because the way that things were back then. It says Stan. When we get to Stan was lucky. He was at an echelon that he could own the rights to, or at the very least be recognized for, and therefore get extra credit for what he was creating with Kirby and with Ditko. But a lot of the guys didn't. So whatever they drew, it became property of Marvel. It became property of DC. It wasn't theirs anymore. So it wasn't like they could profit off of their own creation because, DC and Marvel were profiting off of it. So that's, that kind of differentiates Gold and Silver Age from now, is that there wasn't a lot of profit on the side of the artists and the writers. So that's why, there's no insurance, there's no pension, there's nothing really to take care of them in their old age. But that's where we are, and that's what we do,
This
is we're
actually
there to help them out.
this actually leads me to a question I didn't even know I was going to ask until after you brought this up.
Okay.
Part of uh, part of this whole channel, not only does it cover comic books, it covers wrestling.
Mhm.
And for a lot of people that aren't really wrestling fans listening to this, there's a big debate and issue with wrestlers in the WWE now
Mhm.
who, over the way they're how they're considered independent contractors,
Mhm.
but they're not
Actually,
they're not, but
I
they
have
don't
a
have
very
a
good friend. I have a very good friend who's a wrestler, so I
okay,
know I know some of
right.
what you're telling me. So go ahead. I'm just saying, it's like, yeah, I know, because that kind of made me think about her, because I'm like, yeah, she's kind of going through that right now. But anyway,
So
I'm sorry, I
was
interrupted. Go
no,
ahead.
you're fine, you're fine. So for all the wrestling fans that might be giving this a listen, would that be kind of the similar situation that the the old golden and silver age comic writers and artists were in, similar to that? They have this contract with a company, but they don't get the benefits that you normally would a company. Is it a similar situation? And then we won't get fully into
Yeah,
the wrestling
I
issue,
would
but
kind of, I guess a little bit. But yeah, it's just, they're doing a job, they're providing a service. They are getting paid for it. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still getting paid, but it's basically like a pay for play gig,
right,
And so if you're not churning out books, you're not getting money.
right,
Even today's royalties were quite different back in the day. So, now they're starting to get more royalties and they're starting to get more respect for their work. But, back then it wasn't quite, they didn't look at it quite like that. So it's, although things are changing and they are getting better, they're still not great. So that's where we step in, like I said, to provide a financial safety net and, like I said, help them get back into work. And
it's
that's what we
almost
do.
it almost kind of, and correct me, if I'm off base, tell me. It almost feels like somewhat of a union type of situation for writers.
I
Not necessarily,
no.
not exactly like a union, but you do a lot of stuff that a union does as far as helping find work and providing.
I I don't feel comfortable saying that.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, because we do have two other, because we have the regional advisory board and then we have two other boards. We have um the distribution board and the fundraising board. So the distribution board is the one that actually looks at the requests and decides if it's something that we're able to help, and if so, how much and how are we going to go around it. But I don't know that I would call that as a union.
Right. There's no
Like
due paying exactly
that's,
or anything like
yeah,
that.
no, 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 not at all. It's just a group of people that want to try to take. In fact, originally, when I very, very first started working with Hero Initiative, they went by the acronym of ACTOR. ACTOR, which stood for a commitment to our roots. And that was the whole point, is that they wanted to remember where they came from. They wanted to help the people that needed help from where they came from. But people would see the word actor, they wouldn't know that what it meant. And they'd be like, well, why is this actor George Perez trying to make money? He's got to be making plenty of money. So we changed it to the Hero Initiative just because the original name was kind of confusing. And it's been a little bit better ever since we went to Hero Initiative, because people are like, okay, that makes more sense. But yeah, the actor, that was our original name. That was where we very first came from.
Gotcha. Oh, well, I will definitely be putting a link if people are interested in hearing more about the Hero Initiative. And
So
now that even,
heroinitiative.org is our website.
yes, any
So
social media, or just is it just the website?
I believe we have a Facebook page.
Okay, so I'll be
Yeah,
posting
so
links
they
to
can look
all
them
of
up on
that.
Facebook. Mhm.
Okay, awesome. And even I understand Hero Initiative better than the first interview, so
Right.
we're
Yeah, we were able to get into it a little bit more, which was great, because that was the biggest thing that I wanted to get out of this interview, was to have your listeners know, who we are and what we do, and get them involved in looking it up. Because if nothing else, if there's you're a fan of an artist and they happen to have that bin, hey, think of this and put in $5. You never know who you could be helping out. And that's literally all you have to do. You don't have to go out of your way. You see somebody that you really like, they have the bin, and boom, you've helped us out.
and
You're the hero because you helped us out.
and I'm gonna get on. I don't like getting on a soapbox of any sort, but I'm gonna just go on a personal rant right now. If any writer or artist is signing your book for free but asking for a donation to the Heroes Initiative or anything for
Yeah,
that
come on,
matter,
dude, throw in a buck.
put in
throw in
something.
throw in a throw in a buck. It's all,
Don't just
that's
take
better than
your
nothing.
do not take your long box up there and
Mm-hmm.
have this poor guy or girl sign all of your shit so you can flip it to make money
I
without
know
donating.
exactly who you're talking about.
If you
I know
don't
exactly who you're talking about.
if you can't
But
do it that time, yes.
he did end up paying, by the way.
Okay.
Eventually he did.
Yeah.
But I know exactly who you're talking
If
about right
you don't have cash on you at that
now.
particular moment and can't donate, I understand. But if anybody is offering to sign for free and all they ask is for a donation, to especially to something that helps out as many people as the
Hmm.
Hero Initiative,
We will
just
appreciate it
just
very much so, and we will be very grateful.
just do it.
Yeah,
Do like Nike and
exactly.
just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we had some the last time we recorded, we
Hmm.
had some fun stories involving Stan the Man Lee.
Yeah, everybody kind of wants to know Stan.
So
Stan, yeah,
if
Stan
you
was
can
a big,
reiterate some of those awesome stories, I'm
yeah.
sure.
So Stan was wonderful. Stan was a true gentleman, and it had honestly been my honor to have worked with him as often as I did. Like that, out of everything, I think has been the part that's blown my mind, is the fact that Stan knew me by name, and he knew that I could help him out, and I could take, like, there would be times he'd be like, "Hey, Tabitha, I need to go to the bathroom," and because he knew I could get him there and back without a huge thing. So it was just like, I was kind of the person that was always there whenever he needed it, which made me feel good. But the first story I had was at San Diego Con, and this is when I met him for the first time. Um, my dad treated me for my very first San Diego Con for my birthday, and we were joking on the way over, like, how cool would it be if I met Joss Whedon? Because we were in, like, super deep into, like, Firefly and Buffy and Angel, because this was in 2006, I should say. So, we were really into all of Joss Whedon's stuff because he was really kind of peaking, especially on the television. So we were huge fans of the he done. So I was like, man, how cool would it be if I ran into him, right? And, so even though my dad was treating me to this particular show, I still, wanted to go and help out and be a part of a Hero Initiative. And happened to have freshmen, and I don't remember if it was first or second freshman because there were two different freshmen. Probably the second one, I think, at this point, that was done by Seth Green from Buffy and his friend Hugh Starbukoffs. And we had gotten them to donate a bunch of copies of it, but I had to take it over and get it signed by the two of them. So I'm bringing it back. And I look over and I see this extremely tired redhead man, and it hits me that it's Joss. And there's nobody around him. Like people don't aren't really recognizing him. So I just kind of walked over. I was like, Mr. Whedon, and he's like, Joss. I'm like, okay, Joss. I'm Tabitha with Hero Initiative. Can I just get a picture with you to show my dad? And he's like, yeah, so I have and if I think of it, I'll try to get you a copy of that picture. But, so we have this picture and we both look horrible. Like I'm fangirling. He's exhausted. And for what you know, of course, San Diego Con takes up the entire con center. Like there's everything is part of that show. There's nothing else going on there. And we had my dad, George Perez, and Stan Lee signing both side by side for Hero Initiative. But the Hero Initiative table is one tiny little table, so we don't have room to put the two of them with us. So we had them, CGC, the Comics Guarantee Company, the one that grades your comics for you.
Yes.
They were kind enough to let us borrow their humongous booth, so we'd have plenty of space for these two legends. So I go running across and I have a digital camera. Like I didn't even have a smartphone back then. This was on a digital camera. And I go running over there and I'm like shoving Stan's security out of the way so I can get to George. I'm like, Dad, look, 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 look. I met Joss Whedon. I met him. He was there. He was at the booth. Look. And Stan turns around. He goes, young lady, because everybody's young lady to Stan. He goes, young lady, do you have any idea who you're standing next to right now? And I'm like, yes, Stan Lee. Stan, look, I met Joss Whedon, and I'm showing him my
Love
picture.
that story. I love that story so much.
And then I realized that, oh my gosh, what I had just done. But Stan had a good laugh about it. And because he knew who he was, but he was cool about it. And then the other fun story that we had done from the first recording when it comes to Stan was MegaCon. Again, this is our home show for George and I. And Stan was here. And they do the photo ops. And Stan would always be one to do a photo op. So George had a panel or needed to use the bathroom. I don't remember. Point is, we were going from point A to point B, and we were crossing over where he was getting ready to do the photo ops. He said, let's go ahead and say hi to Stan. I'm like, well, yeah, of course, let's go say hi to Stan. So we go back there, and he wasn't quite started to do his group of people. So we're just, we're sitting there and talking and laughing, and Stan takes his phone out of his pocket and hands it to me. He says, Tabitha, can you take a picture of me and George? I'm like, yeah, of course, so I get the thing ready, and this lady comes like flying. There is no photos back here. No photos. And Stan just kind of like turns around and looks at her, and he's like, young lady, if you have a problem with me getting a picture with my camera of me and my friend, you can go ahead and have all those people out there. You can refund their money, and I'll meet them over at my table and take pictures for free. And all of a sudden, oh, yeah, sir, no, please, go ahead. You can take all the pictures you want. So we took pictures on Stan's phone. We took pictures on George's phone. We took pictures on my phone. Some guy walked by. We took pictures on his phone just to make, because the way she was so rude. But yeah, so not,
I love these
that's all.
stories because unfortunately, a lot of people on the internet they think they seem cool. Like
Mm,
here I am 2 times getting on my soapbox when I prefer to be on there 0 times.
hey,
Um,
fair enough.
they think that makes them cool for whatever reason to disparage Stan
Mm,
Lee for whatever reason, be it
mm,
whatever.
yeah,
And you know, I just I'm happy I'm that these stories are getting out there
right.
because unfortunately, and there might be somebody in here to defend their point, but unfortunately, a lot of people on the internet try to bring Stan's name and legacy down for whatever reason they believe
Well,
they should. And while I personally don't agree with it, um, I'm only one person, so it's nice to see somebody else putting out some good Stan Lee stories.
I
Because
guess I could
yeah,
answer that by saying I am so sorry for those people that they didn't get to see the real Stanley.
yeah,
If they had seen how kind and wonderful and caring about his fans that he truly was, that would have changed their minds. Because in the back of everything that he was doing it out of love for his fans.
absolutely.
So, like try to, am I allowed to curse a little? Try,
This is not this is not a kid's show. You can say whatever you want.
okay, so yeah, so try to shit talk him all you want, but you're only shit talking him because you don't know him. You don't know him the way I did. You didn't see what I saw. And you didn't see this gentle, kind man caring about the people that were there for him. So, if you want to be that person, I can't do anything about it. But just know you're wrong, and you're shit talking somebody that doesn't deserve it, and who is no longer here to defend himself. So, you go on, make yourself feel big, little boy. But you know,
Yeah,
he's not here,
completely.
and
I'm
you missed it. Sorry. You missed it, and I'm sorry for that. But that's a pretty, I mean, I have other stories too, and things that I'd rather not have out there, but just,
we can, when we're not recording sometime, we can share
yeah,
we
maybe.
can share some Stan stories on another day.
Oh,
But
yeah. But those are the two that I really feel like kind of it showed our relationship, like the sassy part of him, if that makes sense. Like that's what
I,
to
I'll
me, that was my favorite. That was my favorite side of Stan, was the sassy side.
see. I didn't know Stan other than just as a fan. But my
Hmm.
when I met Stan, it was at my very first convention at Wizard World St. Louis,
Oh,
2013.
nice. Yeah, yeah.
I paid. I was working at McDonald's at the time,
Oh,
and
goodness.
I uh,
My husband and I met at McDonald's. But anyway, moving on.
um, so
Here we are 20 years later.
I was so desperate to be able to buy the meet and greet with Stan Lee that
Hmm.
I tried to go to a personal loan service. And
Yeah, I was
since I
gonna say,
didn't,
how much was it back then?
well, it was, I can't remember. Oh,
Oh, but because I mean, as far back as that was, I was like, how much did he go for back then?
I
I'm
think that my
curious.
ticket to the convention, I want to say that, well, I'll finish, I'll tell the whole story first. They told
Okay.
me no because I didn't have a full time job. So I had to beg my mother, can you please go get this
Oh,
loan for me? I will
oh
pay
my
back every cent
goodness.
of it, but
Uh-huh.
I gotta use you. And she agreed.
Oh,
And
that was a good mom.
I know, I know it caught for my ticket to the convention and the VIP, or it wasn't the VIP
Mm-hmm.
through line, but it was like just a private meet and greet.
Right.
It was less than 500, but you had to get a bare minimum $500 loan at this place.
Yeah.
So
Because I
I
think
go
he was going. I think he was going for like 750 there towards the end. So you got off a little bit
I got
cheap.
a steal.
Little bit cheap. Yeah.
So whatever, we the way the VIP meet and greet setup is, there's like 50 of us.
Mm-hmm.
50, I can't remember, but it was not a small number, but not a large number. And we all sat in a circle, and he was at this table in like
Mm-hmm.
one of the side rooms at what was the St. Louis Rams stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we all got to go through and ask Stan one question. He was signing our stuff as he was answering the questions to make the most out of
Right.
his time because Stan's
Well,
time
yeah,
is
of
valuable.
course. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we got a picture with our phone with Stan. And
Hmm.
to loop this all back to you said Stan Sass. I kept trying to think like what'd be a good question. What would be a good question? And I asked him, you know, was there ever any DC character that he would have liked the chance just to write and put his own spin on it? And he answered. Uh, it makes me laugh to think about. It's like well, he answered. He said he always wanted to do Superman because he always felt like he could write him better because he said
Hmm.
at the time no one really divulged deep into Superman as a person.
Well,
It was
yeah.
all. But then he
And
said
honestly, Stan was more of a writer.
yes.
So,
But he he then says, but actually I did a number of one shots where I reimagined reimagined all the DC characters, but nobody in here reads DC, so you probably didn't know about that. And for the love of God, don't go look for them because I don't want to give them any sales.
aw,
and
yeah.
like some people were like angry about that, and I thought that was funny because him and Bob Kane used to always like give
Hmm.
each other like little cheap shots about
Oh, yeah.
uh Batman and Spider-Man, and so
Hmm.
I thought that was just kind of like one more cheap shot to Bob and one more cheap shot to everybody
Hmm.
else. While
Oh, yeah. That's what they do. They all have pissing matches back and forth, and it's funny.
yes,
So, but
not like the terrible fanboy fangirl pissing matches we see on the internet sometimes, but
oh,
that's another
yeah,
debate for
those
another day.
that yeah. Don't We're not gonna go there
No.
because you know. So, all right. What else you got for me?
Well, I was gonna let's go back to those convention stories. We talked Stan. There was one other one, and we're gonna censor names.
I
We're gonna censor names to protect the innocent.
Yep.
But we got to
Okay,
hear
I
this one
know.
again.
Okay, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, no names. And at this point, I'm not even going to say which convention it was because I just want to really cover myself.
Really, yeah, that's all good.
Just to be safe. But no, this I think my most interesting back when we would have artists, which I guess sometimes we still do it from time to time. But we would have the artist and we would, fly them out and everything with the expectation that any money that they make goes to us. So we'll pay for their airfare, we'll pay for their hotel, but then they're expected then to make that money back plus more so that, it makes money for the charity, which then, turns around and gives that money to the ones that are in need. So we had at one particular convention a young man who was our artist for the weekend, and I don't know that I've ever had to call someone so many times to be like, your fans are waiting, sir. We need you to come down because they're waiting for you. And when he did finally come down, he came down with a bottle of vodka in his hand. And I'm like, yeah, no, no, you're at a table for charity, sir. We can't, nah. I had to go and get a water bottle and dump it out and be underneath the table. I had to hide underneath of a convention table and pour the vodka into the water bottle because I didn't want people to know that he's literally sitting there drinking straight vodka. I'm like, and how he held that much down, I'll never know. My God, like my liver was wanting to crawl away at that point. And I can hold my liquor pretty well. But yeah, this I was just like, but yeah, and it happened the next day too. And I'm like, you need some actual water. You're gonna be so dehydrated. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I think that was probably not necessarily a low, but not necessarily a high. It's more of a what have I gotten myself into when I'm sitting there pouring vodka into a water glass, into a water bottle, so that people don't know what's going on. Yeah, that was I think one of the most interesting things that I've ever had to do for my charity. So,
Final question about that. I just got to ask: top shelf vodka or rail vodka?
oh, it was the cheap stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to get sick just thinking about that.
Yeah, well,
It
I
was
guess it wasn't like cheap. It wasn't like coal, but it was like mid-grade, you
okay.
know.
Okay.
We're not talking, yeah, it was like I don't even know like what a price it like maybe Grey Goose-ish level.
Oh, that's some of the high stuff. And my
Oh,
for my
Grey Goose is
cheapskate,
high?
well, for my cheapskate ass, it's $40,
Oh.
$45 a bottle. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
but
yep.
they can go but yeah, like but there's got to be vodka that's more expensive than that too, right?
Oh yeah, but I'm kind of
I don't know that
for
much about vodka.
for me personally, if I'm gonna, because I've been become, I'm not quite on that gentleman's level, but I've
Hmm.
become since I started this keto diet, I've been my vodka has turned into my drink of choice,
Yeah.
and I usually go Smirnoff, which is about in my area $17. But if
Okay.
but if I'm really feeling good and really feeling like
Then
I've
you get the goose.
then I get the goose, which is
Yeah.
40
I
50 bucks.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the name brand. I really can't. I know it wasn't like the, bargain bin
Gotcha.
vodka, but it wasn't like top shelf either. Like it was probably like a Smirnoff or I mean at the highest it would have been like a Grey Goose, but
Gotcha.
I don't recall the brand unfortunately, but yeah, but he drank the whole thing. I got to give the man credit. He drank it. He drank it and somehow managed to stay mostly, mostly he's sober.
Was he
And I'm
sketching
like,
at this time,
I
or was he just signing autographs?
just signing. Yeah, it was
Okay.
this was just a signing. But yeah, like I said, I was looking at him and my own kidney was about ready to just like curl up and crawl away. Because I'm just like, I got kidney. I have kidney problems because of my lupus, excuse me, but my liver was wanting to crawl up and curl up and crawl away because oh my gosh, that's a lot of hooch.
Indeed. So I mentioned
So I guess just in
sketching,
it,
and we'll
yeah.
segue that into the my next little bit. If anybody did not get the honor
Hmm.
of meeting your spiritual father and seeing him at a convention,
Yes. Uh,
that man, I was convinced, is not human. The way he would belt out sketches. So,
yeah.
uh, you know, uh, he's retired from conventions, but for those that never got to be part of a convention where he's at, take me through what it was like to see Mr. Perez
Oh my
sketching and
goodness.
signing and the whole George Perez experience that was
Yeah.
there.
So George gets there, about an hour, a little bit more before the convention opens because he wants the vendors to have a chance because once the doors open the vendors have to be at their own tables, so everybody knows that they can go over, get a couple things signed, possibly get a sketch if they're a vendor at the show because he's there to help out the vendors. So we always have to get there first thing in the morning, like before the convention even opens. And then I was joking with my husband last night, like one of my jobs is the most boring job in the world. I have to go through his pen pack and go through every single Sharpie and like make sure that it's still ready to go because the last thing you want is for him to grab a Sharpie that's dried out and mess up the cover of the fans comic book. So like that's the amount of detail he puts into it. Is he's like, Tabitha, you need to fix the make sure these are all okay while I'm taking care of these guys. So I'm sitting there and coloring with it. And if there's one that's dried out, that's gonna mess, we throw it out, you know? So it's that level of detail. He's thinking ahead that far that he wants to make sure that all the Sharpies, all the pens are ready to go because he doesn't want to have anything happen when somebody brings him something to sign. So he did used to do unlimited. When your ticket number came up, you could get, one sketch and then however many signatures you want. You and I both know, I don't
Yep.
want to get into it, but you and I both know the reason that now he will only sign 12 items. And that is because of our friend that was at our mutual convention.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he came up with 12 because that's how many issues of Crisis there are. So they can go and they can get a full set of Crisis on Infinite Earths signed every issue. So that's why 12 is the magic number. So I've seen people bring 12 of those giant infinity. Well, I personally haven't seen it. I'm sorry. I took one for a friend, and then he was telling me somebody else had brought 12 of those giant articulated gauntlets
Oh wow.
from, yeah, from Infinity War for him to sign. 12 of those. So it's like it doesn't necessarily have to be 12 books, but that's his new magic number is 12. But anyway, we're going to move on from that. And so he used to go, 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 go. Like
Mm-hmm.
lunch was a hot dog
And I
because he
believe it
can
was just a
hold,
but I believe it was just a banana. That's all I saw the man eat at our mutual
yeah,
convention.
and I think I got him a banana or a hot dog later on. Um, because he can hold the hot dog in one hand and still sketch with his other. Like, so that way he's eating, but he's not taking time away from the fans. And we kept telling him, George, you gotta chill it out. You gotta calm down. You gotta take care of yourself. And he had a heart attack. And now he does what we've been trying to get him to do. He has most definitely slowed down. He is watching his health. Like I said, he was the pace setter. That was his nickname his whole life. But as the daughter, I'm just so glad that A, he's okay, and B, he's taking care of himself now, and he's still there for the fans. When he's there, when it's if he does a two hour set, let's say those 2 hours, he is 100% dedicated to the people that are there. Like he wants to make the most out of that 2 hours as he can. But he's not doing the full thing anymore. He's not signing 500 things for one person anymore. And he's really not sketching, unfortunately, as much
Hmm.
anymore because of his vision. But he'll sign. He can still sign like crazy. He can sign, 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 sign. He loves it. So,
Is there a particular character that you liked his version of? You liked how he sketched. Maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be your all-time favorite character, but you
oh no,
like
it'd be
his.
Raven. Raven.
Raven. Okay.
Yep. And that's actually his creation. He created the Teen Titans. So Raven and Starfire actually are two of my favorites, and because of that, I love what he did on Wonder Woman quite a bit. And there was actually another family that I've become very, very close with that we met. I met at the same convention that you and I met. And I'm not going to say their names because I want to give them their privacy, but it's a,
Sure.
a, a family with 4 children, and due to circumstances, Dad was trying to get out a little bit early because he had forgotten it was Marv Wolfman's birthday, and they wanted to go out to eat for dinner. So I was the one that was going down the line trying to find like 5, 10 people that would be okay coming back first thing the next day, so that he could, cut out a little early and be able to have dinner with Marv. Which this particular family was one that said, yes, we're going to be here tomorrow, we'll come back whenever. And I signed their ticket to make sure that it said they get immediate access. And they're such sweet, amazing people. And she asked for Shira,
Oh
and
wow.
it was the first and so far only time that George has ever been asked to draw Shira, to the point that I had to get out my phone and find him, some reference material because he'd never drawn her. Like he's like he knows who she is, like in the back of something. He wanted some sort of reference so that it would look really nice, for the lady that wanted to have a Shira drawn. So, but yeah, he did it. He knocked it out of the park. It was great. The family was so happy, and honestly, to this day, I'm good friends with them, just like I'm friends with you. That was actually the best part of that convention, was leaving with lifelong friends.
Absolutely.
Because, like I said, you and that family, are people that are going to be, I hope, are going to be in my life for a long time because I've enjoyed your guys' friendships immensely.
Likewise here.
Yeah.
I've wanted to talk. You mentioned Starfire. One of the big reasons why I was really excited that I got to meet him when I did was because for this convention I was cosplaying as Nightwing,
Yeah, I remember.
and my girlfriend at the time was cosplaying as Starfire,
Hmm.
and I
Yep, I
really
remember.
I love I love Nightwing
Hmm.
because I feel I feel like he is the most relatable character in the Batman mythology,
Okay, fair enough.
in the sense that you start out he's a kid, and the whole point, he's supposed to be the kid, what the kid could relate to. You don't see yourself as Batman, but you see yourself
Hmm.
as Batman's friend going with him.
Oh
But
yeah, of
then as you
course.
but then as you grow up, you find yourself becoming your own man. And one of the books that I had Mr. Press sign was the issue of the new Teen Titans where
Hmm.
Dick Grayson actually makes the decision, I can't be Robin anymore. This isn't
Right.
me.
Hmm.
That's one kind of a hidden gem, but I was actually really happy that I had that book and had him sign that, because
Aw.
that's a turning
Well,
point
it's
for that
important to
character.
you.
But
Yeah, and
it's
it's important to you. So that's what's important to us. To
but it
him and to me as the handler person. Like I like it when people get happy when, you know, kind of like with me being in Sirens, I was trying to maintain the line, and every now and again he'd be like, Tabitha, get over here. And I knew it was somebody had a copy of Sirens, and he'd been talking about how, hey, my daughter's in the book. Here she is. I'm like, oh, can she sign it too? Yeah, sure. Let me get her. Hey, so it's, that's fun. But that's the thing is it's like if it means something to you, then that's why, it means it to us. Does that
right.
make
Oh,
sense?
absolutely. And I'm
Yeah.
really he was actually kind of shocked that I had that book. And also, the one thing I wanted to ask him about was his appearance on Comic Book Men.
Hmm.
Um, and he explained just how cool it was to work on
Oh
that
yeah.
Wonder Man sketch for Mike. And then I met Mike a year later and asked him
Hmm.
about meeting George Perez, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
uh,
I can't tell you, but let me just tell you, there's a few secrets in the pipeline. So keep posted.
okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. So,
Yep.
got a scoop there for when you
Yep.
all listen to this. Before we really run out of time, because we could go on for hours if you let us.
Yeah, but
Um,
unfortunately, I am gonna have to get going pretty soon.
oh, absolutely. We mentioned this last time. There was still you mentioned meeting Joss Whedon and how
Hmm.
big of a deal that was for you.
Hmm.
There's still one celebrity that is kind of left on that list that's kind of the holy grail for you. We talked about
Tom Hiddleston.
why is that, and we'll close on that.
I was adopted, and I don't know if he truly understands. And I'm sure at this point, like other adoptive people have come up to him to tell him, but just how perfectly he played the role. Like especially in the very first Thor, when he very first understands what's going on. And it's it's heartbreaking in a way because he spends the whole movie trying to be Odin's favorite. And I think they made a meme about this at one point, but it was true. Like he's trying to be Odin's favorite. He's trying to outshine Thor. But Thor, like Loki's his favorite. Loki's his brother. He wants to have the best possible. Like he doesn't care that Loki's adopted. Loki's the kid that's been with him his whole life, and he wants to have all these adventures with him, and he wants him to be happy. And just Loki never sees it until it's too late. But just the initial bewilderment and maybe not anger, but just disappointment. Like, why? Why wasn't I good enough? You know, Like just the way that he played Loki as an adopted child resonated in me so badly. Or if I can't beat Tom Hiddleston, I'll go for Michael Rooker for the same reason. Because I called it in Guardians of the Galaxy Part 1. My husband's like, no, you're crazy. I'm like, no, no, you don't understand. Yondu is his father. Yondu believes, like, Yondu is raising him as his son. Like, that's the only reason why. There, he sees something in Peter. That's why he's breaking the rules. And then, of course, you go to Guardians, spoiler alert, go to Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, and, you know, he realizes that all along, yeah, Yondu was his dad, and was raising him as his son because he loved him. So
Hmm.
he loses his dad. I mean, he loses his father, ego, but then, 10 minutes later, he loses his dad.
Right.
Like no sooner does he realize that what's going on than he has to say goodbye. And oh my, you ugly cry in the theater, ugly cry.
Which
uh
it's funny you mentioned that before we that's the as funny as the I'm Mary Poppins y'all line is.
yeah,
The
it's
reason
that's
that line
great,
is
that's
it's
great.
funny, but it's also very powerful in the fact that he was so happy to proclaim he was Mary Poppins because his son is who said that
Ex-
he
yeah,
quote unquote was cool.
yeah,
So that's why he was so
exactly,
excited to proclaim that he was Mary Poppins was
exactly. If
because
my
he
son says he's cool, then he's got to be cool, right?
right.
I'm with it.
And I can
So
also vouch that Michael Rooker is amazing if you ever get the chance
I
to meet him.
cannot wait to meet him. It's
Um,
only a matter of time, but when I do, I'm going to give him the biggest hug and the biggest thank you.
and he will do it. He will.
Yep.
I don't really like to rank, the
Mhm.
niceness of celebrities I've met.
Mhm.
I mean, I've never had like a really truly a terrible experience, but I have one.
I've had one, but that's not for here.
Yeah. Um, but I can tell you, there were certain times where everybody's been cordial, but I could, and I'm
Mhm.
not saying that they all weren't sincere, but there were ones where you can tell they were
Mhm.
truly sincere, and he's one of
Right.
them.
And you know who gives the I and before we go, I will do one more celebrity though who gives
Bring it.
the absolute best hugs, hands down, anywhere, everywhere. Doug Jones.
Okay, now I'm gonna lose some of my nerd cred. Who is that?
From he was the Pale Man, or well, Pan, the faun in Pan's Labyrinth.
Okay.
He was one of the gentlemen in oh my gosh, in Buffy. In
Okay.
Hellboy, he was the physical actor for Abe Sapien.
Okay.
And then he was the water guy in The Shape of Water.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, he gives the best hugs out of anybody. He really does.
Well, we're
So
gonna we're gonna end on that note.
that
I
sounds
want to
good because that means we're ending on something happy, and that's what I like.
absolutely.
And yeah, if anybody has questions, I mean, you can give them my email or anything like that. If they want to follow up on anything, please let them know. Or if they have
Absolutely.
questions about Hero Initiative,
I will
please tell them they can email. Yeah, they can email me at any time.
link those, and I appreciate everyone for taking a listen. Hopefully,
Yeah, thank you guys.
knock on
Appreciate it.
wood that this one sounds decent. And if
Right?
you enjoyed this, please give it a like, share, subscribe for more content. Not just
Yep.
talking about conventions, but from the world of wrestling, comics, anime,
Mhm.
gaming, and all things geek culture. Go follow me on all my social media pages: facebook.com/athleticgeek89, Twitter @athletic_geek89, and Instagram @athleticgeek89. And hit me with those websites one more time.
Oh, for me,
Yes.
heroinitiative.org is our main website.
All
And
right.
that's That's pretty much the only one
Okay.
that I'd really talked about because for Hero Initiative. Yeah, heroinitiative.org.
All right. So check that out, and thank you everyone for having a listen. Have a good one.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you for having me.